In 2010, the iced coffee brand Dare set itself some pretty meaty goals. It wanted to increase its sales volumes by 150%. It wanted to become the number one brand of iced coffee in Australia, and it wanted to leap out of that category and steal share from the other non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages, namely Coke and Red Bull. These meaty business objectives therefore required very clear and succinct brand strategy. What Dare came up with was the classic answer to the big three questions. First, they decided to target both blue and white-collar professionals who were looking for a mental pick-me-up at the start of the day. The brand positioning was tight and clear. Dare aimed to be the solution for all occasions when people are not thinking straight. And finally, it had two very clear objectives. First, to increase its awareness from 70% to 80% over a 5-year period. But more impressively, it was also intending to increase consideration for Dare by 10% every year. In a 5-year period, that meant going from 15% consideration up to a massive 65%. So how did Dare achieve these objectives and actually become one of the most effective case studies in Australian history? Well, it had to decide, first of all, what was the right channel to deliver this fascinating campaign idea. Too often marketers get pulled into a debate. Is this a traditional campaign? Is it a digital campaign? Is it Instagram? Is it TV? In the case of Dare Coffee, as you'll see, they made a decision that the answer to the question which media channel was essentially yes. They chose a complex myriad of many different channels to deliver their campaign successfully. Let's take a look. Dare began with an impressive series of 15-second TV advertisements.
Hey, mate.
Uh-oh, Dave's got his fur child mixed up with his real child.
Dave-o. When your place is all over the head, a Dare fix will fix it.
But it wasn't just TV. On top of that medium, Dare also invested heavily in Facebook, picking up on news stories where someone had made a mistake, perhaps a famous politician, or in a Grand Prix they forgot to put the wheels on the car, or a rugby celebration went wrong. When someone didn't quite have their head straight away Dare was there to sponsor that particular little moment on Facebook. But this wasn't just a Facebook campaign. Outdoor was used extensively to increase awareness, but also to communicate the brand message. As you'll see here, the standard copy of when your head is all over the place has been deliberately changed to where your place is all over the head. By playing around with these different well-known phrases to infer that your head isn't straight, they made a very strong and clear communication. Even more so, they took extremely iconic outdoor locations in all the major cities in Australia and actually erected them upside down. Again, the inference being the people in charge didn't have their heads straight. And then there was radio sponsorship. Hamish and Andy were the most famous radio celebrities in Australia. They sponsored the show, and Dare asked the celebrities to try and answer some of the world's big questions and then try again, having taken a sip of Dare. And then there was a brilliant Google AdWords strategy. So if you were to mistype words like questionnaire or speech or smartphone, Dare actually sponsored those mistyped words. So underneath your mistyped entry, you'd find an advert for Dare suggesting that you get your head straight. And then there was point of purchase. On the refrigerated doors of all the cabinets that opened up to sell you Dare, there was either a pull or a push message. And perhaps most disruptively of all, Dare actually broke one of the sacred rules of branding and misspelt their own name on their own packaging. As another example of getting your head straight, Dare actually, as you can see here, altered the way their brand was presented to suggest again, perhaps you haven't got your head completely straight. It was a spectacularly successful campaign and a well-earned Effie. The overall Grand Effie in 2017 for Australian effectiveness was well earned. As a result of this campaign, Dare achieved both their awareness and considerable consideration goals. They achieved their sales volume objectives and became the #1 iced coffee brand in Australia. More impressively still, they actually doubled their overall share of that ready-to-drink non-alcoholic sector, growing where everyone else was either flat or in decline. What are the key effectiveness lessons we take from Dare? Well, as we've learned from other case studies in this series, first of all, get your strategy straight. We see, again, very good strategic clarity from the team at Dare. But here we learn something else about choosing the right channel mix. You see with the Dare campaign and the way that it utilizes many different channels, the incremental ROI that you get from spreading your money across multiple different tools. The famous research firm Analytic Partners recently conducted a major analysis of more than 3,000 campaigns between 2010 and 2015. They looked at how many different channels do these campaigns actually use. They found, for example, that in 29% of cases, the campaign utilized only one channel. Let's say that was TV. In 31% of cases, though, there were two channels. Let's say that's TV and Instagram. In 24% of cases, there were three channels. Perhaps we add radio. And in 8%, there were four. And finally, in another 8%, there were 5 channels. Now, when Analytic Partners controlled for budget levels and looked at the overall ROI of all of these campaigns, depending on how many channels they utilized, they found a fascinating picture. If, for example, a campaign utilized 2 channels rather than 1, on average, and again, controlling for budget, they observed an incremental increase of a 19% ROI by adding a second channel. Add a third channel, and that figure goes up to 23% versus just operating with a single channel. Add a fourth channel, and that figure goes to 31%. A fifth channel, 35%. The clear lesson from the Dare campaign and from the Analytic Partners analysis is that actually as you add more channels, provided you have a right budget to achieve maximum efficiency, you will see a greater and greater return. Spreading your money out actually gives you a better overall effectiveness. To put it another way, diversity wins when it comes to channel choice. Too often, we're forced to make choices when in reality the answer was both. That also tells you something else. The Dare case illustrates the power of media neutrality, or what we sometimes call media agnosticism. It's crucial that we don't have favorite tools. It's crucial that we don't make channel choices before the strategy is first reviewed. We should approach all channels with the same level of objective thinking. And it also illustrates a key point about the danger of thinking in digital or traditional silos. As the Dare case illustrates brilliantly, the answer to should we be digital or traditional is yes, and yes, we should be both. We should combine the power of TV with the power of Facebook, with the power of outdoor, with the power of Google. The more channels, the better. Whether they're digital or traditional, the consumer doesn't care, so why should we? And finally, we see very clearly here the power of a strong and clear positioning, not just to communicate value to consumers, but to operate as a red line through all these different channels. Without clear positioning, having this kind of effect through many different channels is in essence impossible. Too often, marketers are drawn into a false choice between one channel or another. Provided you have the budget, the right answer is to use multiple channels to achieve maximum effect. Dare to be diverse. Visit the FE's website for a database of all their amazing case studies, and come to Marketing Week for more videos in this series and information on the mini MBA in marketing.